I was surprised by so many of you who have shared with me how my first two PhD application videos were very helpful and encouraging. So I decided to squeeze in this video to share some of my decision-making techniques, which I found very, very useful to really assess whether I will pursue my PhD, and also when I needed to make a decision whether to accept the PhD admissions offer, in addition to spending time with God and prayers. So here are two major frameworks that you could benefit from making your lifetime choices to what's next in my life. The first one is called the Odyssey Plan. Now, this particular framework has been introduced by a group of scholars from Stanford, and I will also put a link down below in the description box that shares Stanford's Life Design Lab, which has loads of really, really great information regarding how to design your life and career. Go check it out. It's really helpful. It's got loads of practical tips. So according to Google definition, an Odyssey plan is a brainstorm about how you would like your life to look in the future. So flash forward 5 years from now and come up with elements that make up the version of you that's living your best life. So this is the exercise that you would do. First, take out a notepad and a pen and write down, what will your life be like in 5 years if you continue to pursue your current career path? So don't overthink it. Just write down anything that comes to your mind. So if you're working in a particular field, doing a particular job, what does your everyday routine look like 5 years from now? Where will you live? What would you look like? What are your closest communities? What's your job and what are your responsibilities like? And also personal finance. So you start brainstorming all of this, just putting them in your notes. Second question you will answer is, what will your life be like in 5 years if you pursue a completely different path? Now, this was what was really helpful for me when I was trying to make a decision to whether to accept the PhD admissions offer. If I had stayed in my job as a news anchor, my everyday life would be pretty much the same as what I was already doing for the past 9 years. Sometimes working 16 hours a day, sleeping 4 hours each day, naps in between to do my early morning broadcast. I knew that I definitely wanted a change, and I wanted to be surrounded by a more internationally, culturally diverse, scintillating environment where I could really engage with the world thoughts and be able to work in more advanced educational environment, like higher education, and interact with younger students, also produce lots of great work that is helpful for marginalized communities and also for our country. And thirdly, answer this question. What would your life be like in 5 years if money, financial struggles, financial situations, and societal expectations did not exist? So what will you be doing every day if you didn't need to worry about all of these money problems, money struggles, or expectations coming from your family and your friends? Where will you be living in? What kind of people would you be interacting with? Like your family, your loved ones? What would your everyday life be? So for me, I was imagining myself, maybe reading every day, spending much time or beautiful offices, reading and writing and doing important research and writing lots of books and also speaking in the conferences. If you're trying to figure out what to do next, I highly encourage you to pause the video now and really just do this exercise really quick and find out what the recurring themes are. There will be recurring images and recurring themes from all of these answers. And this makes it really clear what you would like to do in your future. And you get to see what your heart is telling you. Now, power behind this framework is that it really lets you open your eyes and your mind that you do have options, you do have choices, and that you can make different life choices as you go along. Now, this is somewhat a short-term decision-making framework, and there's another one that is a lot long-term, and this is called Tombstone exercise. I will also put a link down below in the description box. This is a great article that you could read. This is a pretty popular technique, but we often forget about the power of this kind of exercise. Now, a British YouTuber, Ali Abdel, calls this gravestone technique. So basically, you write down 3 things that come to your mind that will be written on your tombstone. For instance, I like to see loving daughter and mother, graceful wife, and lastly, inspirational teacher, scholar, advocate for social justice. Now, Jeff Bezos uses what he terms regret minimization framework. And basically, you're imagining how you might feel at the age of 90 as you reflected on your decisions and whether you'll be happy with it. Now, this decision-making technique is long-term. It engages you with imagining your life vision, long-term life purpose, and it really helps you think from the perspective of life mission and life purpose. And obviously, in your funeral, most people who come to your funeral will not talk about, your accolades and achievements. They will talk about how graceful you were, how kind-hearted you were. So it'll be much about loving, sharing, generally being a nice person. And lastly, you also want to think about what are the practical impacts you want to have in the world overall. For instance, the YouTuber Ali Abdaal encouraged you to think about what Wikipedia would say about you. So imagine what the news articles will say about you, what kinds of things that the interviews would say about you. For me, it'd be something like this. Dr. or Professor Zhang, who teaches at blah 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 university, actively engages and tackles social injustice issues derived by data-driven systems and data-oriented policies in international organizations, think tanks, and do advocacy work. When we think this long-term, you start to open your mind into this broader world that you can imagine and then actually enlarge your options. These are incredibly helpful exercises we can do on a regular basis. And there are additional frameworks and techniques that I use. If you would like to receive more info about this from my newsletter, you can go visit my website and sign up for a newsletter. It'll be sent to your inbox sometime at the end of the month, and it'll be a little surprise potpourri of information that highlights some of the most important trends and some of the nuggets of wisdom that I learn every day. So I did so many of these exercises on my own for the last few weeks before I had to make a decision. And after all these assessments about myself and also the future self, I came to a conclusion that I am accepting a PhD admissions offer and pursue my PhD at Simon Fraser University in Vancouver, Canada. Certainly did not expect that I would end up in Canada. So there were three main elements that I considered when I decided to accept a PhD admissions offer.